Hello and a very good morning. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. This is India Votes with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with the headlines. Political campaigning gains momentum for the next phase of Lok Sabha polls. Party stalwarts hit campaign trail for north to south. Narendra Modi faces a fine or jail for up to 2 years over his selfie controversy. Opposition slams his reaction to poll panel's directives. Election Commission censures Congress leader Beni Prasad Verma over his comments on Modi. Could face ban from campaigns if he continues his tirade. And Maoist posters threatening poll boycott found in Uttarakhand 2 days ahead of Modi's rally. Security stepped up ahead of the polls. Well, amid intense heat wave in most parts of the country, political heat is also on the rise for the next two phases of Lok Sabha polls. Party stalwarts have intensified their campaigns in favour of their candidates in different constituencies. The Congress bigwigs like Sonia, Rahul and Priyanka addressed multiple rallies across states. Aam Aadmi Party convener Arvind Kejriwal was in Amethi to campaign for his party's candidate Kumar Vishwas. Meanwhile, BJP's Prime Ministerial choice Narendra Modi addressed 5 rallies in Andhra Pradesh. Here's more.
Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi was in Himachal Pradesh on Thursday. He tried to reach out to the farmers of the state by sharing his vision for them. Addressing an election rally at Bilaspur, he promised free medicine to poorer section of the society if Congress is voted back to power in the 2014 elections.
हम चाहते हैं कि समाज बदले, किसान का बेटा मजदूर का बेटा एक दिन बड़ा बिजनेस चलाए, किसान का बेटा मजदूर का बेटा हवाई जहाज चलाए.
Uttar Pradesh also witnessed 2 different public meetings by the political bigwigs. While Congress's Priyanka Gandhi continued her campaign in Amethi in support of her brother Rahul, Aam Aadmi Party convener Arvind Kejriwal addressed a public meeting in Amethi where his party's candidate Kumar Vishwas is pitted against the Gandhi side and actor-turned BJP candidate Smriti Irani. Polling in Amethi is scheduled on May 7th.
राजीव जी ने 35 साल पहले भूमि सुधार की योजना शुरू कराई. आज अगर आप क्षेत्र भर में घूमें, बड़ी मुश्किल से मिलेगी आपको उत्सव जमीन. जगह जगह हरियाली मिलती है. अगर राजीव जी का एक दूरदर्शी नजरिया नहीं होता तो आज यह स्थिति नहीं होती क्षेत्र की.
गांधी परिवार ने अमेठी में क्या काम करके दिखाया? कैसे हुआ? ऐसा कैसे हुआ? हमने 49 दिन में इतना काम कर दिया, उन्होंने 30 साल के अंदर वो अमेठी को वैसा अमेठी को और बर्बाद कर दिया इन लोगों ने. कैसे हुआ ये? दोस्तों, हमारी नीयत साफ थी.
While addressing the people of Faizabad in UP, Congress President Sonia Gandhi took on BJP over the issue of divisive politics.
भाजपा की सोच, उनकी सोच में नफरत का घुटन है, लालच और बेलगाम सत्ता की भूख का अंधेरा है. उनका इरादा ऐसा है, देश की सारी सत्ता और दौलत चंद हाथों में हो और गरीब और कमजोर की आवाज दब जाए.
Meanwhile, invoking the Telugu pride, BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi addressed multiple rallies in the Seemandhra region of Andhra Pradesh. He alleged that the UPA government divided the state without taking people into confidence.
आपको तय करना है कि आपको सीमांध्र को स्वर्णिम आंध्र बनाना है या आपको सीमांध्र को स्कैम आंध्र बनाना है.
TDP chief N. Chandrababu Naidu, actor-turned politician Pawan Kalyan were also part of Modi's campaigning tour in Andhra Pradesh. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let me now introduce my guest on the show this morning. We have with us Partha Venkateshwar Rao, who is the editorial consultant of the DNA. Very good morning, Partha, and welcome to the show. The action has now shifted to the hill states and, of course, the Seemandhra region. 7 phases of polling have come to an end now. Final 2 phases, of course, 105 seats in the fray right now. 64, I think, in the next phase of polling, of course, which is next week on Wednesday. Interesting contest again on the cards, of course. 17 seats in 25 seats in Andhra Pradesh, extremely crucial, and also the hill states now extremely crucial.
Yes, the Simandra region is going to be rather crucial for, not so much for Congress, because Congress, it looks like that it might be swept out because of the anger about the division of the state. The interest remains as to who will be the, who will gain from this Congress loss there. And it is a tie between Jagan Mohan Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu. The local reports seem to indicate that Jagan Mohan Reddy is there in the fray, but he might be losing some of the momentum which he had earlier. The BJP believes that Modi is a factor and Chandrababu Naidu is riding on the Modi wave sort of thing. It's more speculative. We are not very sure whether it is true or not.
Yes, we are not sure whether it's true or not, but also the hill states will be extremely crucial because Uttarakhand, all 5 states, all 5 seats in Uttarakhand as well as 4 seats in Himachal Pradesh as well. So the Congress will be trying to at least hold on to some ground there in these hill states. Yeah,
it will try to, and I think the question now is, I think that in midway through this election process, there seems to be a shift in the mood. The fight has become tougher than what we thought at the beginning of the this polling process. It looks like that the players have come back, people whom we have written off. Congress, we thought, would just be decimated everywhere, yes, at all the places, but it looks like it's fighting back. That is the indication. We can still be wrong because until the counting day, yes, but it appears that Congress is fighting back, and it is good that when other parties fight back and it is not a one-party show, that everybody is on their feet. And that is the reason perhaps that the BJP is also putting all its efforts into these states.
Right, indeed. Of course, the BJP is putting in all its efforts into these states and Bihar as well.
I mean, it is not taking for granted that it is winning anyway.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, we don't have to wait for too long. In about a couple of weeks' time, we'll know exactly how, in which way the Indian voter has voted. Of course, talking about the Congress, let's take a look at some of the newspaper headlines. Of course, the Hindustan Times lead story: Rahul tells party he'd rather sit out than support third front. That's an interesting development, isn't it? Because all this while, everyone was of the belief that, you know, the Congress is going to ensure that they're going to support someone like a third front coalition and ensure that they keep the BJP out. But that's not what Rahul wants.
I think there is a thinking inside the Congress that after 10 years in power, it's better for the party to sit out in the opposition. It's sort of cooling period. They have faced much heat over these last 2 terms and they do not mind being out of power. But they are not willing. They cannot afford to say at this juncture of the election process that they are willing to lose, though they see the writing on the wall. So, yes, there is a thinking in the Congress party, and Rahul represents that thinking, that these 5 years should be used for consolidating the new structures in the party so that it goes better equipped into the next election.
Indeed, of course. Let's move into some of the inner pages. Of course, this is the Hindustan Times, again, another interesting story here, and it's great to see something like this, of course. Women youth power push-up turnout by 140 million over 2009. The story goes on to show what are the states where the women and the youth really have come and made a difference this time around. So clearly, the voter turnout has been extremely high this time, and the women and the youth is what has made a difference, is what the story goes on to talk about. That's great, isn't it, to see such a good voter turnout?
Yeah, the voter turnout has always been good, and I think if we really look over the successive elections, I think the voter turnout has been more than the earlier ones, every election. For the last 20 years, I think it's part of the media rhetoric, especially in the pro-market sections, that we have a demographic dividend and the population is very young and all that sort of rhetoric. And yes, women also have come into the voting thing. But, you know, it's a very natural process, that every election you'll have more voters, new voters. And among these new voters, yes, women will be there and youth especially would be there.
Indeed,
but
of course.
What is their choice? I think they are not going to, I think they face the similar socio-economic conditions. A poor boy, a youth in a village is facing the same situation as any other person in the village. So his choices, I think, are limited. He is not going to choose I mean, he doesn't have the luxury of choosing anything new or be inspired by a new vision, because none of the parties are offering anything great as I can see it.
Well, yeah, the parties are offering pretty much the same thing. If you look at the
Pretty much the same
manifestos
thing.
and
Yes,
everything else, I
yes.
mean, there are a few things here
Yeah,
and there,
yeah,
but not
yeah,
significantly
yeah,
different. But what do you believe has really influenced the voters this time around? Is it the larger issues like inflation, issues like corruption, or is it, issues on the ground really, your bijli, sadak, pani, your common issues?
You know, after traveling in some parts of UP and talking to people, I have come to the conclusion that the Indian voter is the inscrutable, as inscrutable as the proverbial God. He is not willing to reveal as to who he is going to vote for. He is weighing his options. He is looking at every party. He is not sort of rejecting out of hand anyone on ideological grounds. And I think he would have his final say only in the voting booth. Before that, and of course, we have no other option but to speculate and second guess as to what he or she will do on the polling day.
Indeed.
But I think it's going to be very, very difficult. But one thing is change, that they are willing to experiment with change.
They are willing to experiment with change, and they are hoping that something happens as far as democracy is concerned, and they're looking for a brighter and a better India. Of course.
This, I think that's the only certainty, that they want to exercise their vote, and that they are now confident that they can change governments, and that's a huge power in their hands, in the hands of the people.
Let's take a look at another newspaper headline, of course, Hindustan Times yet again. Arrest Modi for poll code violation is what the Congress is saying. And of course, even other papers, of course, going ahead with similar headlines and talking about the same. And EC order to register FIR against Modi hasty is what BJP is saying, and Jaitley goes on to talk about it. Quite a few reactions coming in as far as Narendra Modi's infamous selfie is concerned. Narendra Modi seems to be keeping up with the times. He seems to be going ahead with the new generation. Whether he wins or not, let's not debate that. Let's not talk about what kind of a government he will give or not. But he's definitely been a trendsetter as far as these elections are concerned. He's come out and done some new things.
He's tech savvy in some ways, but I would not take that too seriously, because there was another man called Chandrababu Naidu who tried to project an image of being very tech savvy, and the people were not over impressed by that act. Of course, every politician needs to update their own style of campaigning and give out their own signature, but I do not think that it would mean anything more than selfie. Yes, very nice. What counts in this election is whether Modi or Rahul Gandhi or Mulayam Singh or Jayalalitha can convince people with what they are saying. That is more important.
Do the people buy what they say is really the question, of course. Now, a day after he drew flack from the Election Commission over his post-poll selfie, BJP's Prime Ministerial nominee Narendra Modi targeted the Congress for lodging the complaint with the poll panel. If the allegations are proved, Modi will have to pay a fine or face jail term of up to 2 years or both. Meanwhile, his opposition continued their criticism over Modi's self-flashing his party symbol. Let's take a look at the latest report.
The Gujarat administration swung into action soon after the Election Commission's direction to file FIR against Narendra Modi. The BJP stalwart clicked a selfie after polling in Gandhinagar on Wednesday and shared it on social websites, which is alleged to be a violation of Model Code of Conduct. The Chief Secretary as well as the DGP were asked by the poll panel to file separate FIRs against him. If the allegations are found to be true, Modi could face fine or jail for 2 years or both. While on election tour to Andhra Pradesh, Modi reacted sharply to the actions taken against him.
कोई किसी को चाकू दिखाए, FIR समझ में आ सकती है. कोई किसी को पिस्तौल दिखाए, FIR समझ में आ सकती है. कोई किसी को बंदूक दिखाए, FIR समझ दिखाती है. मुझ पर FIR इसलिए लगी है कि मैंने लोगों को कमल दिखाया.
However, criticism of Modi's action continues as opposition parties alleged the BJP heavyweights' ignorance towards election-related laws. His reaction to the EC's order was also questioned today.
अगर नरेंद्र मोदी जी को इस देश का कानून भी नहीं मालूम है, तो वो प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार कैसे बन गए उस पद के लिए? कमल दिखाना कानून को तोड़ना है, उन्हें इस बात का एहसास होना चाहिए।
Shri Narendra Modi's, whether it is his selfie, whether getting himself clicked inside the booth, whether holding an impromptu designed press conference, are part of a certain frustration and fear of loss that has arisen in Bharatiya Janata Party and Shri Narendra Modi's camp.
चुनाव आयोग एक इंडिपेंडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है और किसी के दबाव में वो काम नहीं करता है और इस तरह की घटिया बातें नहीं करनी चाहिए उनको।
BJP, on the other hand, continues to defend Modi. The party claims Modi did not address any press conference after voting.
Well, after casting a vote, conventionally in an election, people are asked to give a bite. Now, if both the political leader and the media are going to be prosecuted for that, I am not very sure whether it's within the confines of law. I have serious doubts.
According to EC, an impromptu bite by Modi to TV crew would have been okay. However, holding a 20-minute-long press meet outside the polling station amounted to a deliberate attempt to influence the mind of voters while polling was underway. The EC's prompt action was in sharp contrast to its failure to file an FIR under similar circumstances during the BJP's manifesto release on April 7th. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's take a look at some more newspaper headlines. Of course, we have the Hindu here, front page news. No judge will prove Snoopgate is what Jaitley has gone on to say. And even the Times of India, of course, going with the similar headline. Jaitley will be surprised if any judge agrees to probe Snoopgate. Parsa, is there an underlying message that is being tried, that the BJP is trying to send out with this?
At one level, I think they are trying to find out that within the legal confines that there is room to wriggle out if there is any sort of indiscretion on their part within the confines. At another level, they want to turn it into a political slugfest where the other parties are trying to corner them in the name of the law. They say it is not so. But I think all these little things are overblown. And this is election time and everyone thinks that it's fair game to attack anyone and everyone for anything and everything.
Indeed, of course. And before I let you go, of course, your thoughts and your comments finally on the last two phases of polling. 7 phases are done. We've reached the home stretch now. Just 2 more phases to go. We're almost there.
I think one thing I detect is poll fatigue. I think the media is also tired and so are the people. Perhaps the only people who are not tired perhaps are the politicians because they seem to love the game. But I think these 2 phases are interesting because the people, these 2 phases will sort of make a difference in the final outcome. And there is a slight shift in mood and the winds of change sort of thing. So everybody's calculations will be sort of toned down by these 2 phases.
Okay, so we might be in for a surprise then.
Yeah, people who are supposed to lose may not lose so badly and people who are supposed to win may not win in such a big way.
All right, that's the game of politics, of course. That's how the ball rolls, sometimes this way, sometimes that way. Thank you so much, Parsa, for joining us in the studio this morning and being a part of the show. We'll slip into a short break now, but we'll be back with much more. To stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. This is India Votes. Now, 5 seats in the hill state of Uttarakhand will go to polls in the next phase on May 7th. Amid hectic political activity in the otherwise quiet state, there is a sudden concern for security. Police have found series of posters allegedly put up by Maoists calling for poll boycott. The discovery comes 2 days ahead of the BJP's Narendra Modi's rally in the state. Here's a report.
As Uttarakhand prepares to go to polls in the 8th phase on May 7th, hectic campaigning is currently underway in the parliamentary constituencies. But threats by Maoists through posters like these has set alarm bells ringing. Police in Almora have increased security and deployed additional forces after finding these posters threateningly asking people to boycott the polls. A case has been registered against unknown persons for putting up the posters.
हाँ, कुछ असामाजिक तत्व इसमें कुछ लोग इसमें लगे हुए हैं जो कि पोल को डिस्टर्ब करना चाहते हैं और उनके इस मंसूबों को हम फेल कर देंगे और हमारी इंटेलिजेंस भी लगी हुई है.
Police are on a lookout for the people involved. BJP claims the posters, both printed and handwritten, are a major security challenge ahead of Narendra Modi's scheduled rally.
प्रधानमंत्री पद के उम्मीदवार श्री नरेंद्र मोदी के अल्मोड़ा आगमन से सिर्फ 2 दिन पहले माओवादियों ने जिस प्रकार से खुले तौर पर यहां धमकियां चिपकाई हैं, पोस्टर लगाए हैं और लोगों को चेतावनी दी है, उससे स्पष्ट होता है कि उत्तराखंड में सरकार नाम की चीज कोई रह नहीं गई है और अत्यंत कड़ी सुरक्षा व्यवस्था का दावा करने के बावजूद अल्मोड़ा जैसे शहर में माओवादियों की ये जो पैठ है, यह चौंकाने वाली है।
The police assured special vigil in some areas of the state and along the Indo-Nepal border where Maoist activities were reported earlier. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Kurnool district in Andhra Pradesh is gearing up for a tough battle between TDP and YSR Congress. The district is expecting to host the capital of Andhra Pradesh after the bifurcation. Here's a look at the politics and demands ahead of the polls in the region in the next phase.
Kurnool is known for the legacy of Konda Reddy, who crafted this city of hope in a drought-hit Rayalaseema region. Kurnool was the capital of the state of Andhra Pradesh when it got bifurcated from Tamil Nadu. It remained the capital for the next 3 years, but later was replaced by Hyderabad. YSR Congress is in head-on fight with TDP in this district. The bifurcation of the state has brought in significant changes in the political scenario. Congress cadres who are opposed to the division of the state have joined the TDP. Former Congress Minister T.G. Venkatesh left the party in protest. He is contesting on a TDP ticket. He feels Congress has lost the mandate before the polls.
Division has taken place under the leadership of the Sonia Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi is Congress. So naturally, people are not going to vote for the Congress. We have made it very much clear, myself and my cadre, if the Congress is going to give the Telangana, we are not going to continue in the Congress party. So accordingly, we have come out.
It's not just the TDP and YSR Congress who are in favor of a united Andhra Pradesh. Kiran Kumar Reddy's newly launched Jai Samayakya Andhra party is also posing a tough fight in assembly segments. The party is still hopeful to keep the state united.
हम लोग पहले से भी यूनाइटेड स्टेट ऑफ आंध्र प्रदेश के इसी लड़े हैं। हमारे किरण कुमार रेड्डी साहब इसीलिए उन्होंने इसलिए इस्तीफा भी दे के है, उन्होंने यूनाइटेड स्टेट के वास्ते इस्तीफा दे के है।
Kurnool district has 6% Muslim population and is largely below the poverty line. They demand the political parties to provide employment at local level.
तो एजुकेशन के बच्चे पढ़ने वाले हैं, यहाँ पे डिग्री तक या इंटरमीडिएट तक पढ़ के हैदराबाद जाके शहर में जो भी कॉलेजेस आपको हैदराबाद में एजुकेशन स्ट्रांग मिलने वाला है यंग यूथ के लिए, और इसलिए यहाँ पे बनने के लिए और तकरीबन बहुत साल लगेगा।
People in Kurnool feel that the district has a great potential to become the capital of Andhra Pradesh once again. They say that there is ample government land available to construct the capital.
हम लोग भी चाह रहे हैं कि करनूल ही हमारा कैपिटल बने।
Andhra Pradesh bifurcation has brought significant changes in Kurnool district. People here demand a separate capital. Kurnool was earlier the capital of Andhra Pradesh. Now they demand this to be the new capital. With camera person Manoj in Kurnool, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the campaign of the Secular Front is creating trouble for the BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi. Till now, the elections were being fought by 3 separate fronts. But now, with the Congress indicating that it will support a non-BJP front, it has injected a new dimension to the political contest. But the question is, can such a front provide a stable government? Here's a report.
Signals from the Congress camp indicating that the party is throwing its entire weight behind a third front. The development has thrown wide open the entire political contest. What initially started out as a straight fight between the Congress-led UPA and the BJP-led NDA is now witnessing many possibilities. India has seen coalition-era government since the 90s. The Congress helped S.D. Deve Gowda form a government in 1996. It supported the Indra Kumar Gujral government later. The UPA itself became the coalition was after the efforts of Sonia Gandhi and CPM leader Harikishan Singh Surjeet. The Congress is itself, however, divided over supporting a third front. One section feels the party should lead the secular front. The other views that the Congress should confine itself to giving outside support. Other parties are already reacting to Congress Secretary Ahmed Patel's remark on his party supporting any non-BJP front.
चुनाव के बाद तीसरे मोर्चे के घटक दलों की बैठक होगी। उसमें हम लोग तय करेंगे कि हमारा अगला फ्यूचर कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन क्या होगा।
Both the Congress and Third Front leaders are joined in a common belief that communal forces will be strengthened if Modi assumes power. They fear the results could be even worse than the 1990 Ayodhya frenzy. The left parties want a non-BJP, non-Congress dispensation, but looking at the ground realities, they might only insist on secularism as the common denominator for an alliance.
Congress party concedes there is a possibility of non-BJP, non-Congress secular coalition emerging in the post-poll scenario. So we'll have to see what exactly the situation will be after the elections.
The UPA under Sonia Gandhi went all out to include even parties that were long-term rivals of the Congress. But after a decade of rule, the atmosphere has changed. The BJP feels the anti-incumbency factor is strong enough to pitch it to par.
ये सभी देश को स्वीकार कर चुके हैं कि थर्ड फ्रंट की सरकार बनने जा रही, क्योंकि जो क्षेत्रीय दल जिनको आप लोग कहते हैं वो अपने अपने प्रदेशों में प्रभावी रूप से उभर के आ रहे हैं और इतनी संख्या आ रही कि तीसरा मोर्चा बन जाएगा, करीब करीब गठन पूरा हो गया है.
Facts show no coalition has survived for long without the support of the Congress or the BJP. But this time, a new front is emerging with leaders like Mulayam Singh, Mayawati, Jayalalitha and Mamata Banerjee. The question is, would they be able to provide a stable government?
मैं समझता हूँ कि कोई भी फ्रंट बने, उस फ्रंट में कांग्रेस का या भारतीय जनता पार्टी का, दो जो राष्ट्रीय पार्टी हैं उनका होना आवश्यक है. बगैर उनके कोई भी सरकार वो टिकाऊ सरकार, स्थिर सरकार नहीं बन सकती.
The UPA has been the most successful alliance in the country despite facing problems. Many parties shifted allegiance between the NDA and UPA. Some even went to the third front. Now even if a non-BJP coalition comes up, it could boil down to overcoming personality clashes for the sake of providing a stable government. Arvind Kumar Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Votes. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.